borders just for human, not for particles. So all these small microplastics can travel long distances.
We have done experiments on the samples in Siberia, on samples in the north and south and polar regions, and we found in many of those we found nanoplastics. So most of the areas that are considered pristine are at least episodically polluted by nanoplastics via air. We measure around 20 nanograms per cubic meter of air on average. And this is pristine and clean air, and you think it is nothing here, but it's actually almost always something.
Today, forests are also at risk of becoming exclusion zones, as they've already turned into massive reservoirs of micro and nanoplastics. I understand that our instinct, especially as parents, is to search for cleaner and safer places like coastlines and forests where the air feels fresher. But the paradox is that these very places have already become some of the most dangerous environments for human life. Let me give you an example. In a large city, an adult might inhale up to 106,000 microplastic particles during a 2-hour walk. Yet, in areas near the bodies of water, that number far exceeds that, and those 2 hours may be enough to trigger a cascade of diseases, whereas for some individual, a fatal outcome. It is important to understand that when a single micro or nanoplastic particles enters a cell, it destroys more than just that one cell. After the cell dies, the plastic particle is not eliminated from the body. It continues to move throughout the body, damaging other cells and triggering a chain reaction of destruction. This process is endless because plastics, as we know, can recharge and retain electric charge. The more microplastics enter a body, the faster this destruction spreads cell after cell, organ after organ. And time becomes critical here because our body has limited resources to fight this damage, while nanoplastics, they're not expelled. Instead, they continue to accumulate in ever-increasing quantities, destroying us from within. Nanoplastics are perfect killers not only of humans, but of the entire biosphere, and it's impossible to hide from them anywhere. They're literally pushing us out of the world we once knew. Micro nanoplastics are already affecting our planet as well as the climate. And moreover, they're intensifying already devastating natural disasters and contributing to the worsening geodynamic crisis.
Climate and plastic in a single cycle of destruction. The world ocean is the largest system of our planet. It regulates climate and serves as the main source of oxygen. The ocean and the atmosphere form a single, interconnected climate system. Water has a remarkable ability to absorb and store immense amounts of heat, increasing its temperature only gradually. The accumulated heat is then evenly redistributed across the planet and transferred to the atmosphere. This property of the ocean to efficiently dissipate heat from the Earth's interior protects the planet from extreme temperature swings and helps stabilize the climate. But massive contamination of the oceans with micro and nanoplastics is disrupting this finely tuned mechanism. Electrostatically charged plastic particles bind water molecules, forming hydrate shells around themselves. This alters the physical and chemical properties of ocean waters. This has already reduced its thermal conductivity and created pockets of overheated zones where heat can no longer dissipate. Consequently, overall ocean warming is accelerating. This topic is explored in greater detail in the documentary Anthropogenic Factor in the Ocean's Demise. Excessive ocean heating, in turn, increases evaporation and disrupts atmospheric circulation. As a result, both the temperature and humidity of the atmosphere rise. Electrostatically charged nanoplastic particles act as condensation nuclei. causing moisture droplets to freeze at lower altitudes and at higher temperatures, 4 to 10 degrees Celsius. This accelerates cloud formation and contributes to abnormal weather events, large hail, extreme downpours, and disruptions of the hydrological cycle. Charged plastic particles are already influencing weather formation, affecting flight safety, cloud development, and even where and how the precipitation occurs. In other words, microplastic has already become a driver of climate instability.
We know what particles doing in the air, they produce clouds. If we have a particle in the air, the water vapor sits on these particles and forming clouds. So therefore, we want to understand how much nanoparticles influence the formation of clouds. And therefore, of course, in the alpine region, it can trigger the cloud formation and so also thunderstorm or extreme weather events.
When you have a big storm event, many micro and nanoplastics get released from the environment when they have been trapped in the soil, in the riverbeds, on their surfaces and things like that, and get mobilized in the air. So you then after storm, you have even more pollution.
This process sustains itself, creating a feedback loop. Ocean warming increases water evaporation. Even more nanoplastic rises into the air with the vapor, and even more energy accumulates in the atmosphere, further heating the ocean. According to data, every degree of warming increases air humidity by 7% and lightning frequency by at least 12%. Thus, more heat, more moisture, more plastic in the air, more lightning, and the cycle continues endlessly. Observed trends indicate that this energy buildup is accelerating exponentially. And with each passing year, climate anomalies are becoming more distinct and more destructive.
We are seeing the hottest summer in Europe after having a record-breaking summer last year. Similarly, here in the northeast of US, we are seeing record-breaking temperature. Every year for last 2-3 years, we are saying, oh, this is the hottest day. And then the next year comes and there is a new hottest day. The nighttime temperature in Southeast Asia is not dipping at all in many places and kind of trapping the heat. So our body is not getting even that relief at nighttime. There is increase in air pollution. There is increase in all sorts of chemical pollution. And so if you think about this holistically, it's a huge impact on the planetary health. And I think this is a time, this is a reminder that we are part of the planetary system. We belong to it. We are not separate from it. And until we think holistically, I think, we'll define one issue, we'll define one threshold, we'll continue to go after that, maybe even solve it scientifically. But until we think holistically and act holistically as a community, as a society, I think we are in trouble.
We have reached a critical point where it's no longer possible to solve the climate crisis without simultaneously addressing the plastic pollution, and vice versa. The two are interconnected, each reinforcing the other. And as we continue to study this issue, the picture becomes even more alarming because we're now beginning to understand what is truly happening.
I am. Both for myself and my family, but also for the future generations. There was a time where I thought that, the climate change is real, of course, but this is for future generations to be affected by, and I was still equally concerned. But in no time, and I would say in less than 5 to 10 years, we started from that mindset and time frame. Within 5 to 10 years, we started feeling it. Getting impacted by it in our day-to-day life. And so it's more concerning than ever before, and the timeline, which was predicted previously, has shortened exponentially. The impact we are seeing on a global climate, from ambient air to the thinning of the Arctic ice, and it's not linear model, right? I mean, the physics is gonna play out. The thinner the ice, it's gonna take much less amount of time to melt it, even the same volume, in a much shorter period of time. So I think These timelines are really concerning, and I am afraid, yes.
Indeed, many signs indicate that our planet's energy balance has been disrupted, and natural processes are intensifying exponentially. Consequently, we may have less and less time to respond, and nanoplastics are playing a key role in this acceleration. In the past, excess heat from the Earth's interior was removed gradually, step by step, yet effectively. It was first partially absorbed by the oceans, and then transferred into the atmosphere, and then finally released into the space. This sequential process prevented excess energy from accumulating within the Earth's interior or the atmosphere, allowing the planet to cool and reduce the thermal load on the inner layers. But today, this natural mechanism has been disrupted. Nanoplastics no longer merely affect the climate, but they also exacerbate the geodynamic crisis and intensify natural disasters by obstructing the release of heat from our planet's interior. The role of micro nanoplastics in this process is described in detail in the report on the progression of climate catastrophes on Earth and their catastrophic consequences. So our entire planet is contaminated with micro and nanoplastics, and we have nowhere to escape to. These particles are in us, in our children, disrupting and destroying more and more cells in our bodies. This is why confronting plastic pollution is no longer optional. It is essential for our survival. The first and most obvious step may appear to be eliminating the use of plastic and recycling the waste that has already accumulated. But we must ask ourselves, will that truly be enough?